My dear sisters and brothers, in this talk, I would like to continue to speak to you again on the same mystery of the resurrection. St. Luke, out of all the evangelists, gospel writers, is considered the most systematic writer and also the best literary personality we have among the New Testament writers. He arranges his gospel in such a way that he makes Jesus to finish his ministry outside Jerusalem before chapter 9, verse 51. Verse 50 he finishes. And on verse 51, he has a very important verse. When the time, the kairos, the time as muhurtam has come, Jesus, having set his face to go to Jerusalem with great determination, he started walking towards his goal. As he walked, he took his disciples along with him. So this great journey to Jerusalem was not only a kind of journey to a particular place called Jerusalem, but also is the marga of discipleship, the way of discipleship. So you will find Luke packing that part of his gospel, chapter 19, verse 33, I think, with material on what discipleship is. So you see the stern face of Jesus telling his disciples that they should live a very, very poor life. The discipleship is not easy and they should walk the hard path. And in a way he was forming his disciples. So in the terminology of Luke, going up to Jerusalem means discipleship. Now, coming to this mystery of the resurrection, Luke has a beautiful passage in chapter 24. Chapter 24 starts with the early morning, Jesus appearing to Mary Magdalene and the other women, and then other people going to the tomb and finding the tomb empty. And they were asked to go to Galilee where they will meet Jesus. Now, towards evening, two disciples are going to Emmaus. Emmaus, as Luke very clearly puts it, is away from Jerusalem. The disciples, having lived with Jesus for some time, are now thoroughly frustrated. They are talking among themselves. Great things are going to happen through this man Jesus, but all their hopes were dashed to the ground. And with a heavy heart, they are going to Emmaus, which in the terminology of St. Paul means they are going away from discipleship. It is at this time that Jesus stops them on the tracks and like a stranger approaches them and asks them why they look so sullen faces, very sad. And they are surprised that this is the only man who is in Jerusalem who has not heard about all those things that happened in Jerusalem. He asks, what? Then they described to him there was a man called Jesus who did great things, and we hoped the kingdom of Israel is going to be established through him. But ultimately he was arrested, crucified, and he died. And their hopes were dashed to the ground. That morning some women of their company have gone to the tomb and found the tomb empty, and came back and told the disciples some stories of some angel, some person in white robe appearing and asking the disciples to go to Galilee. How to believe the story of women and the Jewish society? Women were not taken very seriously. So they are now left with total frustration, an empty tomb, and stories of women. It is at the time that the risen Lord slowly opens them the scriptures. But Luke is very careful to make us realize, but the disciples did not recognize him. So all along the way he opened the scriptures to know how this Messiah has to go through this passion and death, and it behoveth the Messiah to go through the passion and death and so enter into his glory. And when the journey comes to an end, the disciples want to go to their place, the house where they wanted to go. Jesus pretends that he is going further. So the disciples ask him, Mane nobiscum Domine, stay with us, Lord, for some more time. It is evening. Come and have little supper with us. So he agrees and goes, and he uses that correct word during the breaking of the bread. During the breaking of the bread, these two disciples, they recognized the risen Lord. When they recognize the risen Lord, he disappears. This is exactly what resurrection does. It brings about a total change in you, and the man is no more. So what happens when Jesus, the risen Lord, thus disappears? He leaves a burning heart and a broken bread. The disciples are telling each other, wasn't our hearts burning when he opened the scriptures for us? Yes. This is what resurrection should do to us. Give us a burning heart that burns with love. Like, for example, Mother Teresa, for example, heart burning with love, which goes out to the poorest of the poor. And a broken bread in the hand, which when further broken and eaten, the kingdom of God is here with us. This is exactly the thrust of Jesus' preaching, not establishing any church or founding a new religion, but bringing about the kingdom. And he wants every one of us to break that bread and share with my brother, my sister, so that the kingdom of God comes alive among us. And the gospel goes on that very hour, because they are transformed. This is the proof. Resurrection is not a miracle to prove Jesus is God to somebody, but it brings about a total change in us, at that very hour, they get up and go back to Jerusalem, back to discipleship. So whenever frustrated we go away from Jesus, discipleship of Jesus, he meets us on the track and he does the same thing to us. Only thing, we must be aware of it, be in touch with him so that we allow ourselves to be changed by him. They go back to the group of disciples and they share their good news and they tell them that they have also seen the Lord. And very quickly they go to a place called Bethany, and there Jesus tells them, my mission is over. Now you go and continue this mission among all people. One point I would like to say here, in the Gospel of Mark as well as in the Gospel of Luke, even also in Matthew, this sentence you find, go and tell my disciples that you will meet me in Galilee. This Galilee, my dear sisters and brothers, is not the geographic Galilee of Palestine, but the Galilee of the nations mentioned in the prophet Isaiah, where he says, Galilee of the nations, meaning all people will come to see the Messiah. They will come from the Galilee of the nations. So our mission is to go to everyone, not only human beings, even the whole of creation, and bring about a transformation. And that is possible if we ourselves are transformed by the risen Lord. Shalom.